In 1975, The Godfather Part 2 was the first movie sequel to win the Academy Award for Best Picture. It also won the Oscar for Best Adapted Screenplay and is ranked number 10 on the WGA's list of the 101 Greatest Screenplays. Here are 11 screenwriting tips in The Godfather Part 2. When it comes to the characters in your story, be sure to ask yourself, what's the code that they live by? This helps make characters feel unique and avoids making them sound like each other. It also helps in clearly defining their actions. Let's take a look at the codes that Michael Corleone lives by. His code pertains predominantly to family.
We're both part of the same hypocrisy, but never think it applies to my family.
Ancora porta il nome di Corleone. E tu sempre devi rispettare i cosi di famiglia.
I can't control him, Mikey. You're my brother, Fredo. You don't have to apologize to me.
Of course, then we get his view on murder, and the hypocrisy of how he ultimately deals with his brother Fredo.
If anything in this life is certain, if history's taught us anything, it says you can kill anyone. I don't want anything to happen to him while my mother's alive.
Next, let's see what code Hyman Roth lives by.
Hyman Roth always makes money for his partners.
Someone put a bullet through his eye. I didn't ask who gave the order, because it had nothing to do with business.
Good health, the most important thing. More than success, more than money, more than power.
See how it helps define his actions throughout the story? And finally, we have Vito Corleone, who unsurprisingly displays the most complex set of codes of conduct. First, we have his views on solidarity with fellow Italians.
Italiano,
Siciliano cornuto.
E allora, perché scogli che l'altro italiano? Ma voi sei siciliano? No, sono calabrese io. Io vado mano sto favore, un paesano now.
Next, we have his conduct when it comes to sharing things with his wife.
Cioè, Don Abbondando non ti tratta bene?
Ma sa stare.
Amucci mi chiesto per me.
And finally, we see his affinity for the exchange of favors.
Você è stato sempre buono con me da quando ero picciriccio. E io come scordo. E vi garantisco che io si bene so che ci rogno io. Ma solo ricordatevi che vi feci un piacere.
È un regalo questo.
Grazie. There's something I do for you. You come, we talk.
Grazie.
Non fai sto piacere. Figati chi so. Io come scordo.
So when it comes to the characters in your story, find the code that conducts their behavior. When you really think about it, there are several reasons that should make Vito Corleone a repulsive character. He steals. He murders. And yet, look at how they cleverly make his character a likable one by bringing out his humanity. First of all, we always root for the underdog. Look how they set up Vito as an underdog when he's a boy.
Ma Vito, avevi solo 9 anni ed è fisso.
His entire family is killed by Don Ciccio's men. Upon his arrival in New York City, instead of embarking on his new life of promise, he's immediately quarantined for smallpox. Which leads us to the next aspect of Vito Corleone that creates a likable character. He remains positive despite hardship. Instead of lamenting being stuck in confinement, he sings a sweet song in Italian. Later in the movie, Vito loses his job to Don Fanucci's nephew. And yet, look at his reaction.
Você è stato sempre buono con me da quando ero picciriccio. E io la ringrazio.
Another thing that always makes us like a character, when they love their family.
Hey, Dad.
Ma per te è bello, per me è Gesù, mia moglie e a mia figlia. Pace ti vola bene assai.
And finally, Vito helps others.
Lasciati fare a me. Io risetto tutte cose. E ho menzioni non ne dico mai alla amici miei. There's something I do for you. You come, we talk.
Grazie.
È una poverezza vigida, che senza nulla che la difende. Qua ci sono 6 mesi d'anticipo. Non ci decise niente da ide, è una cristiana orgogliosa.
So if you have a character that performs questionable behavior, be sure to balance it out with aspects that we can relate to as human beings. There are numerous storylines in The Godfather Part 2. We all know that the entire film should follow a good story structure, but notice how each of these storylines are constructed in the same way. Let's take a look at the first storyline that's introduced, Don Ciccio. First, we get the key incident. Think of the key incident as the seed that starts the story in motion. Without this, the characters would just continue on with their normal lives. In this example, we see that the key incident is the murder of Vito's father. Next, we get the setup, where we see what the story will generally be about.
Ossia non si scanta. Sto bicirino non ci può fare niente.
Quando è grande, se ne viene per fare vendetta.
However, Vito himself isn't pulled into the storyline just yet. This comes in the inciting incident, when the character must react to a plot-turning event. In this case, it's when Vito's mother is killed and he must run for his life. Next, we get a major part of the second act, when the character strives to restore order to the imbalance in his life.
Cioè, Don Abbondando non ti tratta bene?
Lascia stare. Perciò, per chi c'è la medaglia a Vigio hanno suscitato monete.
Tu non capisci.
E spiace la mia città sto vicinanza da suo io.
The next big plot point is the midpoint, which shapes the second half of the storyline. It essentially points to the direction we're headed, the final climax of the story. In the Don Ciccio storyline, the midpoint seems like an inconsequential event.
Hey, what do you think? God bless America. We gotta make a big business.
However, we see how this ends up leading to the crisis, when the character must make a final decision.
Significa compagnia d'olio d'oliva, Don Ciccio.
È onesto pecciotto di Nuova York.
Sta qua vicino a me, Don Ciccio.
Tuo padre, come si chiama? Io si chiama Antonio Mandolini.
And of course, we close the storyline with the resolution.
E chi sto è petit?
Let's see how this story structure plays out in other storylines as well.
Johnny Ola bumped into me in Beverly Hills.
He said that you and Roth were in on a big deal together, and that there was something in it for me if I could help him out.
You got me in deep enough already.
Just go along. Everything will be all right, Fredo. Your brother's not gonna find out we talked.
Make away, the drape's open.
It was Roth that tried to kill me in my home. How can I help? You just go along as though you know nothing.
You don't know my brother Fredo, do you, Johnny? Johnny Ola, Fredo?
We never met.
Where did you find this place?
Johnny Ola told me about this place.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
Come on. Come with me. It's the only way out of here tonight.
Can't you forgive Fredo? He's so sweet and helpless without you.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
Clemenza promised the Rosado brothers 3 territories in the Bronx after he died. You took over, and you didn't give it to them.
I welched?
You welched.
Now, if Hyman Roth sees that I interceded in this thing in the Rosado brothers' favor, he's gonna think his relationship with me is still good.
I take that as an insult. Michael Corleone says hello. Some deal I made.
Oh, you'll live like a king. You'll be a hero.
My life won't be worth a nickel after tomorrow.
Frankie
Mr. Pentangeli, were you a member of the Corleone family? Did you serve under Vito Corleone, also known as the Godfather?
I never knew no Godfather. Look, the FBI guys, they promised me a deal. So I made up a lot of stuff about Michael Corleone.
Don't worry about anything, Frankie 5/8.
Story structure cascades down into every level, act, sequence, and scene. Give every storyline in your screenplay a satisfying structure that follows good storytelling. Every screenwriter on Earth has heard the phrase, "Your story needs more conflict." So what exactly is conflict? Do you achieve conflict by having characters yell and scream at each other? Do you achieve conflict by just having them fight? In his book, Write Screenplays That Sell, author Hal Ackerman offers an elegant solution. The internal architecture of a scene needs 2 jackals and 1 bone, a situation where only one character's objective can be fulfilled. We must be sure that conflict is created, and to do it organically, we must be sure that the character's objectives are in direct opposition. Let's see how this simple formula for conflict plays out in The Godfather Part 2. In the opening sequence, we have these 2 jackals, Donna Andolini and Don Ciccio. And what's the bone that they fight over?
Che piacere, Don Ciccio. Sparagnatemi, sto figlio mio.
This simple yet powerful conflict comes naturally from their directly opposing desires.
Ma o figlio mio è sicco. Iddu, cusciusciuna batte.
E se quando cresce, cresce forte?
O signoruzzo mio, vi giuro che non fa niente, o signoria. Mo sparagnasse.
No.
Another scene with 2 jackals, Senator Geary and Michael. What's the bone they fight over?
However, it will leave you with one little technical problem. The license will still be in Klingman's name.
Look how easily the conflict carries out because of the opposing objectives.
You can have a license. Price is $250,000. Now, the price for the license is less than $20,000, am I right? That's right. Now, why would I ever consider paying more than that? Because it's in your interest to pay me. But I want your answer in the money by noon tomorrow.
There are multiple examples of this throughout the film. Now that you know how this works, let's take a quick look.
We're going to Europe next week. I'd like to book passage on the Queen.
So what do you come to me for? Why don't you go to a travel agent?
We're getting married first.
The ink on your divorce isn't dry yet and you're getting married?
You're not my father!
Then what do you come to me for?
Because I need money.
And why don't you tell him marriage is out of the question and you don't want to see him anymore?
Eu vou que você é padre Guido, pediste que eu vou que estar cá.
Eu vado mano sto favore, d'un paesano now.
Tu che cazzo sei che stai andando a calmo in ordine a mia mano di comando? Oh.
That plane goes to Miami.
That's right. That's where I want it met.
It would be like trying to kill the president. There's no way we can get to him.
Tom, you know you surprised me.
I mean, you've won. You want to wipe everybody out?
You're going to come along with me in these things I have to do, or what?
Michael, I'm not going back to Nevada. I brought the children to say goodbye to you.
Oh, do you expect me to let you take my children from me? Don't you know that that's an impossibility, that could never happen?
It was a son, and I had it killed because this must all end!
So when it comes to having conflict in your story, make sure to do it right. Make it come organically from characters having directly opposing objectives. In other words, have 2 jackals fighting over the same bone. There's something I noticed in many scenes in The Godfather, both parts 1 and 2. In scenes of high conflict between 2 characters, there's usually a tertiary character that agitates the conflict in that scene. Example, Senator Geary and Michael are about to argue about the gaming license. Notice how other characters agitate that conflict.
I was under the impression that you and I would talk alone. I trust these men with my life, Senator.
Another example, Connie and Michael butt heads about her remarrying. Notice how there's someone else to stir that pot.
I'll see my sister alone.
It concerns me, too. Is it okay if I stay? Could I have a drink or something?
In this scene, the conflict is between Fredo and his wife, Deanna. But there's a third side to complete that triangle.
Michael says that if you can't take care of this, I have to.
A third character can also do more than agitate a scene. They can completely thwart an objective. In this scene, the Rosato brothers are trying to kill Frank Pentangeli. See how a third character ruins that objective.
Is that something on the floor?
You open your fucking mouth, Buddha!
In this example, they use a third character to delay the gratification and tease the audience at the highest point of drama in the scene.
Before I reach my hotel, I'll be assassinated.
Who? Roth.
And finally, just as in The Godfather Part 1, there are scenes where children agitate the primary conflict.
Kids, why don't you go outside for a while?
Michael, please, I want to talk to you. Kay, you have to go. Kay, will you please hurry? He's coming. Kiss Mama goodbye.
Anthony, will you kiss your mother goodbye?
What's the world? Come on, knock it off.
You know how they say don't make anything easy for your protagonist? This is a great way to add to that. In fact, we could learn from The Godfather by not making it easy for any characters in our stories. A powerful tool for making the audience want to know what will happen next is dramatic irony. Dramatic irony is created when the audience is given information of which a character is unaware. As the dramatic irony is played out, the audience feels tension and wants to know what will happen when that character discovers the truth. Naturally, the dramatic irony is resolved when the character becomes aware of this information. In this first example, the audience is given information of which Frank Pentangeli is unaware. Here's when that dramatic irony is created.
And Pentangeli is a dead man. You don't object?
Notice then the tension we feel for him as the dramatic irony plays out.
Ma che succede?
C'è Michele Corleone.
Come?
Poveretto, aspetta da mezz'ora. C'è qualcosa con Ma?
I wish you would have let me know you were coming. I could have prepared something for you.
I didn't want you to know I was coming. You heard what happened in my home?
In my bedroom where my wife sleeps!
And finally, notice how the tension is resolved once Pentangeli hears the truth.
I want you to help me take my revenge. It was Hyman Roth that tried to have me killed.
Interestingly, this now paves the way for a new thread of dramatic irony involving Hyman Roth.
I've already made my move.
What move?
Hyman Roth will never see the new year.
Relax, Senor Roth. We're taking you to the hospital.
Another example, Don Fanucci doesn't know he's a dead man. As Vito talks with Clemenza and Tessio about paying Don Fanucci, the audience is not aware of his true intention until we hear this familiar phrase.
Ma tu sei sicuro che io decidi sì? I make an offer you don't refuse.
This immediately makes us want to know what's going to happen, and we're hooked until this dramatic irony is resolved. Let's see how this example plays out.
We're fine.
And finally, we have the biggest source of dramatic irony that shapes a majority of the story, Fredo Corleone. There are three major threads of dramatic irony that involve Fredo's character. The first instance occurs when the audience realizes that Michael is unaware of Fredo's betrayal.
Yeah?
Fredo, this is Johnny. Johnny Ola, we need some more help.
You got me in deep enough already.
Just go along. Your brother's not gonna find out we talked.
Anybody I know in Havana?
I don't know. Hyman Roth? Johnny Ola?
No.
You don't know my brother Fredo, do you, Johnny? Johnny Ola? Fredo?
We never met.
Where did you find this place?
Johnny Ola told me about this place. He brought me here. Old man Roth had never come here, but old Johnny knows these places like the back of his hand.
Now that Michael knows about Fredo's betrayal, this creates a second major thread of dramatic irony.
Old man Roth had never come here, but old Johnny knows these places like the back of his hand.
Fredo, where you going?
I'm gonna get me a real drink, because I can.
I know it was you, Fredo. You broke my heart.
And finally, in the story's finale, we see the final thread of dramatic irony involving Fredo. He doesn't know that his own brother is going to have him killed.
I don't want anything to happen to him while my mother's alive.
Fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God.
The lesson here, Once you create a thread of dramatic irony, you essentially have the audience hooked until you resolve that thread of tension. It's a powerful tool to keep your audience always wanting to know what will happen next. In good storytelling, characters usually behave depending on their biggest objective. Another thing that shapes their behavior is their biggest source of pain. For example, let's see what hurts Tom Hagen the most.
Tom isn't going to sit in with us, Johnny. He only handles specific areas of the family business.
If you need anything, Mike, I'll be outside, all right?
There's a lot I can't tell you, Tom. I know that's upset you in the past. Yeah.
I always wanted to be thought of as a brother by you. Mikey, a real brother.
You're going to come along with me in these things I have to do, or what?
Why do you hurt me, Michael? I've always been loyal to you. I mean, what is this?
Take a look at what drives Frank Pentangeli in the first half of the story.
It was not our brothers. They're taking hostages. And Mike, they spit right in my face. Clemenza promised them nothing. He hated those son of a bitches more than I do. Now I want to earn my family without you on my back. And I want those Rosado brothers dead.
What is it that pains Kay Corleone the most?
In 5 years, the Corleone family will be completely legitimate. That was 7 years ago.
I see. I'm supposed to stay in my house.
No, within a compound will be fine.
Am I a prisoner? Is that it?
It's not the way we look at it, Kay.
Michael, you say you love me, and then you talk about allowing me to leave.
With Hyman Roth, his biggest pain is pretty evident.
I could only live to see it, to be there with you. But I wouldn't give for 20 more years.
How do you feel?
Terrible. I'd give $4 million just to be able to take a piss without it hurting.
His medical condition is reported as terminal. He's only going to live another 6 months anyway.
He's been dying of the same heart attack for 20 years.
As far as Fredo's concerned, we first see how he's treated by others.
Mikey, what the hell's going on anyway? I'm totally in the dark.
Senator Geary's flying in from Washington tomorrow night with some people. I want you to show him a good time in Havana.
My specialty, right?
Congratulations.
That's right, encouraging. Well, I'll give you a drink.
Until he finally reveals his pain to Michael in a cathartic outburst at the end of Act 2.
Send Fredo off to do this, send Fredo off to do that. I can handle things, I'm smart, and I want respect!
And finally, we have Michael Corleone. His biggest source of pain shapes the entire story.
Michael. Papà, ti vola ben assai. Ben assai. Michael, say goodbye.
Now, many times, he and I have talked about your future.
Talk to my father about my future.
He has high hopes for you.
Well, I have my own plans for my future.
Be more like Pop.
It's not easy to be his son, Fredo.
Chi pensava, mamma? Entro io. Me che ti fa di fotte la famiglia. Me che ti veduta.
A character's biggest desires can shape their actions in order to get what they want. Think about using their biggest source of pain to shape their actions in protecting themselves. Exposition gets a bad rap in screenwriting circles because it can lead to on-the-nose screenwriting, where it feels like characters are directing information to the audience. This happens when the only dramatic subtext for that exposition is simply to explain. Instead, think of exposition as ammunition used by characters to get what they want. There is an overwhelming example of this in The Godfather Part 2. Characters use the legacy of Vito Corleone to achieve their objectives. They use exposition involving Michael's father to gain power in a moment of conflict. Look at how Michael uses exposition about his own father to help make his arguments against Frank Pentangeli.
You're a good old man. I like you. You were loyal to my father for years. Come on, Frankie. You know my father did business with Hyman Roth. He respected him. My father taught me many things here. He taught me in this room. He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
And see how Pentangeli does the same thing to turn it right back around on Michael.
Your father did business with Hyman Roth, but your father never trusted Hyman Roth.
In this example, notice how Hyman Roth constantly talks about Vito Corleone to reinforce his business relationship with Michael.
What we'll do together in the next few months will make history, Michael. Not even your father would dream that such a thing could be possible.
You all know Michael Corleone, and we all remember his father. We were running molasses out of Havana when you were a baby. The trucks owned by your father. During Prohibition, we ran molasses into Canada. Made a fortune. Your father, too.
There are other examples of exposition as ammunition outside of talking about Michael's father. In this example, why does Senator Geary tell Michael things he already knows?
Corleone family has done very well here in Nevada. You own, or you control, 2 major hotels in Vegas.
Because he's using that exposition to achieve this objective.
You can have a license. Price is $250,000. Because I intend to squeeze you.
And finally, how's this for exposition as ammunition? Using it to stab another character in the heart.
It wasn't a miscarriage. It was an abortion. It was a son, and I had it killed because this must all end.
Exposition is a powerful tool that your characters can use to achieve their objectives and create powerful conflict in your story. If the number one rule in screenwriting is not to be boring, then we should avoid using exposition simply to explain something to the audience. Audiences and readers want to be surprised by events in your story. If what the audience expects to occur is exactly what ends up happening in your story, you'll create an unsatisfying experience. This is where reversals come in. Reversals are essentially unexpected outcomes in a story. Think of them as plot twists or turning points. They frustrate an outcome that we expect to happen. Therefore, in order for reversals to be the most effective, a strong expectation of a likely outcome must first be established. Also, in order for the reversal to be feasible and not seem like it's coming out of left field, it's important to hint at its possibility. Let's take a look at some examples in The Godfather Part 2. When Genco and Vito sit in the theater, they establish the expectation for this outcome. We also get a hint at what could possibly foil that expectation.
Ehi, tu, da sei?
Oh, scusa. Sono Fenucci.
And finally, we get the reversal.
Fenucci cai, a mano nigura.
Come ci pensa? Carla, vattene da qua.
Che betta.
When Michael talks to Hyman Roth, we get a strong expectation for this future outcome.
I came here because there's going to be more bloodshed. Frank Pantangeli came to my home. When I refused, he tried to have me killed. I'll visit him soon.
We then get the hint of a possible reversal.
And Pantangeli is a dead man. You don't object?
These small potatoes.
When Michael acts in a threatening manner in Pantangeli's house, notice how the original expectation is at its strongest.
You heard what happened in my home?
Mike, I almost died myself, but was also relieved.
In my home!
This then makes the reversal all the more potent.
Why do you ask me to lay down to him, Mike?
It was Hyman Roth that tried to have me killed.
Here's another strong expectation that's established by Michael.
I've already made my move.
What move?
Hyman Roth will never see the new year.
We also get a hint of the possibility of a reversal, an event that seems to be unrelated to what happens later.
I think a half hour ought to do it. Just long enough to bring in the new year.
The original expectation is further reinforced as Michael's bodyguard kills Johnny Ola and stalks the already gravely ill Hyman Roth. But then we get the unexpected reversal. Another example of a powerful reversal. Here's the expectation.
10 a.m. Monday morning, at which time the committee will produce a witness who will corroborate the charges which were made against you today.
Some deal I made.
Oh, you'll live like a king. You'll be a hero.
And you're gonna look respectable for 50 million of your fellow Americans.
Notice how they introduce the seed for a possible twist, whereas the audience has no clue who this man is. Frustrating the originally expected outcome, the reversal gives us a delicious surprise.
You a member of the Corleone family. Did you serve under Vito Corleone, also known as the Godfather?
I never knew no Godfather.
And finally, we have the crucial storyline of Michael and Fredo. When Fredo betrays Michael, we all fear the worst. However, Michael creates the expectation that he won't kill his own brother.
When you see our mother, I want to know a day in advance so I won't be there. Tell him everything's all right. I know Roth misled him, but he didn't know they were going to try to kill me.
Here then is the seed for the frustrated outcome.
I don't want anything to happen to him while my mother's alive.
And of course, the famous and brutal reversal.
Anthony! He's here! We're going fishing!
No! Michael wants to take him to Reno now.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, Al, let's go.
Holy Mary, Mother of God.
So remember, reversals and plot twists must surprise your audience, but they should also be logically possible outcomes. Do this by creating strong expectations and cleverly hiding clues for future reversals. One of the most important things we can do as screenwriters is to always make the audience want to know what will happen next. Mario Puzo does an excellent job of this in both his novel and the screenplay by having characters constantly push the audience's attention to a future point in the narrative. Here's an example: characters making declarations of future events. When this happens, we as the audience immediately start thinking ahead and want to know how things will turn out. Let's see examples of this in The Godfather Part 2.
You're gonna take over. You're gonna be the Don. I give you complete power, Don. I came here because there's gonna be more bloodshed. I want you to know about it before it happens so that there's no danger of starting another war.
Later on in the evening, we're all invited to the Presidential Palace for reception, bringing the new year. Before I reach my hotel, I'll be assassinated.
Got a big day tomorrow.
My life won't be worth a nickel after tomorrow.
Here's another technique of pushing the audience's attention to the future. This occurs a lot, not only in The Godfather, but in mafia movies in general. When characters make threats, what is it that we immediately want to know? Will that threat actually be carried out? Let's look at examples.
Connie, if you don't listen to me and marry this man, you'll disappoint me.
And I want those Lozano brothers dead.
No.
Mort.
Sometimes all it takes is a simple declaration of a desire for an outcome. When a character wants something, we want to know if they're going to get it.
Keep them alive.
We'll try.
Michael! Alive!
That's what I want him to think. I want him completely relaxed and confident in our friendship.
Jesus Christ, now look, let's get them all. Let's hit them all now while we got the muscle.
Tu ci dire amici tuoi, chi non voglia sei, tanto per bagnare mia bocca.
And finally, there's another thing that characters do in The Godfather Part 2. They make promises or assurances of a future outcome. What's the immediate question in our minds? Will they hold to that assurance?
You got me in deep enough already.
Just go along. Everything will be all right, Fredo. Your brother's not gonna find out we talked.
Look, I want to assure you that my staff indicates with assurance that we'll drive them out of the city of Santa Clara before the new year.
E vi garantisco che io si bene so che ci rogno io. E o menzogni non ne dico mai all'amici miei.
This might seem like an overly simple technique, but it works. When characters constantly talk about what they want to happen in the future of the narrative, it automatically makes the audience want to know if that will actually happen. And guess what? We're hooked until then. Do that enough, and you'll have them hooked for the entire story. The Godfather, and mafia movies in general, are full of delicious subtext. Subtext is simply the underlying meaning in what a character says. For example, we know this most famous line of subtext.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Imagine if he said, "I'm going to use physical force to get what I want." Not that interesting for the audience. Let's look at some brilliant examples of subtext in The Godfather Part 2.
The license will still be in Klingman's name. Turnbull is a good man.
I got nobody here.
I saw an interesting thing happen today. A rebel was being arrested by the military police. He exploded a grenade he had hidden in his jacket.
I'm particularly interested in knowing, was there always a buffer involved? Is someone in between you and your possible superiors who gave the actual order?
Unless they went home and they killed themselves, then nothing happened. Their families were taken care of, Tom.
Don't worry about anything, Frankie 5 Agents.
Subtext doesn't have to exist only in dialogue. It can underlie a character's actions as well.
The rent stays like before.
Subtext is another great way of letting the audience participate in the telling of the story. When what a character says is exactly what they mean, we rob the audience of participation and end up boring and losing them. So what are your thoughts? Is The Godfather Part 2 even better than the first movie? Let me know in a comment below. As always, a big thank you to my patrons for supporting me on Patreon and helping to grow the channel. And if you haven't already, please be sure to subscribe to be notified of upcoming videos from Sleuth. More great content is on the way. Thank you so much for watching.